When we're always trying to control things, it signals that we're not actually trusting what's happening. We're not trusting the big picture of life. We're not able to trust the moment. We're kind of interfering with it, often in a very unnecessary way. Of course, there's a time to assert yourself, but a lot of us kind of get stuck in that mode of asserting, controlling, dominating. Humanity's been stuck in this for many, many years if you just look throughout history. There's this sort of imbalance where we don't know really how to rest, how to surrender, how to just sit and observe without judgment. We're very ignorant of our own internal landscape, our own internal subjective experience, our emotional world. There's a lot of ignorance around this kind of stuff. So I want to talk about this paradox of control, how letting go actually leads to getting what you really want. And I really want to emphasize it's what you really want, not what you just believe you want, not with what you've been conditioned to want, maybe by culture growing up or an environment, some kind of belief you picked up from your environment. But the things that actually really matter to you, the things that are actually aligned with the core of your being, with your actual self, with your own psychology, your own values, your own everything. So control creates resistance. When we're essentially trying to control, we create tension. Life doesn't flow as easily when we're like resisting it, controlling it. And there is this sort of natural movement of life, this sort of natural movement of energy. And when we're trying to control it, we're actually just kind of interfering with it a lot. Again, there's a good time to assert yourself, but there's also a lot of time where it's time to just kind of step back, learn to get out of that mode. Again, it's kind of like this dancing back and forth between what I'm going to call the masculine and asserting and being direct, and then a more feminine surrendering and being indirect. It's kind of learning to balance this out effectively so that you're not suffering so much in life. So like holding on to water in your hands, the tighter you try and grip it, the more it actually all begins to slip away. Sometimes letting go counterintuitively just allows things to start to happen naturally, and then it all kind of starts to align and actually just kind of fix itself. Again, for example, try really controlling your feelings. You'll notice that your body actually starts to get tense. You're actually restricting the flow of energy in your body. So there's one way that I'm just kind of telling you that, yeah, letting go of control actually ends up working in your favor, but it's up to you to really practice this and start learning to really trust it. Surrender also enhances power. So this idea of letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means learning to trust the process, which is it requires actual courage, because a lot of the reason for why we control so much, it comes from fear, essentially. It doesn't come from bravery or strength or dominance or power. It comes from fear. And in fact, surrendering and letting go is an extremely courageous act. When you step back, solutions often arise naturally without your effort, because your constant interference with things begins to throw them off, right? If you've ever done creative work, try and force creativity, try and control creativity. Of course you can't. It's spontaneously happening in the moment. It's spontaneously arising in the moment. The best thing you can do is kind of let go and create the conditions for it to arise in the moment. So moving on is just systems work better when they're trusted. Trying to micromanage life disrupts the balance of larger systems like relationships, nature, or even your own body. And systems are actually intelligent. Systems aren't just like stupid, mechanical, etc. You have to trust the intelligence of, let's say, the system of your body. It knows how to actually, let's say, adapt and heal. You have to trust the sort of natural flows of energy rather than always asserting your will onto things. Of course, again, a time to be assertive, a time to step back. And it's really practicing this so you can really develop that intuition of what to do and when. Again, practice here is very important. Core part of really feeling free in your life is also letting go of control. So freedom lies beyond control. True freedom comes not from always controlling the outside and trying to rearrange it so that you feel good, which is what a lot of us are doing. We're always trying to control the external world, manipulate it essentially, and then it has to be in this specific way. And when it's not in that way, we're freaking out. Of course, that's a losing battle. You're never going to align everything to fit the exact way that you want it to be. So learning to let go of the need to always control it and allow it to kind of just do its thing. This is far wiser. It was doing its thing before you got here. It's doing its thing while you're here. It's going to do its thing after you're gone. You might as well not always be so caught up in trying to control it, essentially out of fear. The reason why this matters is because the very impulse to be doing it is arising from fear. It's arising from internal sickness. So this inner freedom allows you to respond creatively to challenge rather than always being reactive and acting out of fear. When you're kind of letting go of control, you start to actually respond to things. You actually start to just be able to observe them without judgment. You can just kind of witness them. There's this kind of stepping back that happens, and that's a very powerful place to actually be. Moving on is flow is stronger than force. Force is tiring and unsustainable. Always imposing your will onto always being in this hyper-controlling state is just blatantly exhausting and unsustainable. Your body's going to get exhausted. It's a way that your body's literally telling you this is not sustainable. We can't do this. This is exhausting. We're burning way too much energy. So force is tiring and unsustainable, but flow works with the natural rhythms of life. There's just sort of natural flows, energies occurring in life that as you kind of let go of control, you naturally start to align to them. I think a good way of putting that is in relationships, right? Trying to force someone to, let's say, have feelings with you doesn't really work. But then when you kind of let go, right, you start just acting naturally. It actually is way more attractive. So again, it's like learning to just kind of align with life, move with life, rather than always fighting against it. Anyone here who has a pretty dominant in their right brain will definitely be able to just sense what I'm talking about when I say there's natural flows and rhythms to life that have to be trusted. So like a surfer riding a wave, when you stop fighting, the energy of life carries you forward effortlessly. Control blocks connection as well. When you try and control others, you create distance. Letting go invites harmony, connection, and understanding as well. Try and just control all the people around you. See how much they like it. This applies to people. This applies to emotions. This applies to your own inner struggles. So you just fail to connect properly when you're always controlling something. Because again, there's this natural tendency to connect and for the energy to kind of merge. But again, you're interfering with it when it's disrupting its natural process. So moving on is my 7th point here. The whole is greater than the parts. Maybe a few of you have heard this if you've ever studied systems thinking. The whole is not the sum of the parts. So trusting the bigger picture means realizing your small efforts fit into a much larger, intelligent whole. Control comes from fear and separation, but letting go reveals how interconnected everything truly is. When you're able to kind of let go of that fearful place, your perception of life actually begins to shift. You start to move out of survival mode, essentially. Lastly, control limits possibility. When you try and force one specific outcome, you ignore other, often better outcomes. You kind of have your blinders on. You're trying to force it to be this one thing. And you're not really opening up yourself to the actual magic of life. This is a fucking blessing that we're actually here. And because we take it for granted, because we kind of just are asleep to our actual experience, we don't even interpret it as a miracle. You want an actual miracle? You want God's miracle? This is it right here. This is it right here. You take it totally for granted. And because of that, you just kind of see it as dull, mechanical, etc. You don't really see the beauty in the most simple things of life, like a water bottle or your hand. Right? You don't see the beauty of how you can even be comprehending the things that I'm saying totally effortlessly. Your mind just does it without you even having to control the thing. You start essentially misperceiving it because if a miracle is performed 100 times, it ceases to be a miracle to you. You just get used to it. It gets boring now. You want something new. You have this constant craving for novelty, so you start to overlook the beauty of right here. You overlook the obvious beauty, the obvious intelligence that exists right before you. So letting go opens the doors to unexpected opportunities and deeper alignment with your deepest sense of purpose in life. That's it for this video. If you're interested in working one-to-one with me, you can apply to do so. Link is in the pinned comment. Take it easy.